Hi, this is Tatsu with Real Progressives. Tonight is Wednesday, so that means Mike Sainato here with us on RP. We'll be reviewing a couple of stories he's written for The Observer and Counterpunch. Mike Sainato is a journalist with Guardian, Observer, and many other publications. So let's welcome Mike.
Atatsu.
Hey, Mike. Been a busy day, thirsty day down in Florida. So how's the week in news been treating you?
It's been a busy week. Obviously, this weekend was crazy with the Muslim travel ban and the protests. Um, you know, uh, it got kind of crazy. What I've written about it. I tried to. Glenn Greenwald did a good job of, you know, providing the context to the Muslim travel ban, how Trump was able to issue an executive order, what it was based on. If you read the executive order exactly, it doesn't. The only country it mentions is Syria. At the end of 2015, there was a visa program and terrorist travel act, prevention act that Obama signed, and that listed these 7 countries of concern, and we've been bombing 5 of them for at least 8 years, some of them for longer than that.
Wow. So, and there was actually some recriminations in that, was the Donald Trump's executive orders, was it tied to Obama's actions while he was president? Or, are they related or not related? Did Obama's presidential actions on those 7 countries, did they lay the groundwork for Trump to do what he did this week?
They laid the foundation, but obviously Trump took it to the next level. I think, at least in my opinion, if you look at the record, the war on terror has been inherently discriminatory towards Muslims, and it's been a terrible scourge on the Middle East as a whole, because our foreign policy has been based on Islamophobia and using this war on terror to manufacture consent for these wars, to get people to ignore, our own involvement in, country civil wars like Yemen, in Libya, Syria, Iraq. The U.S. is really at fault for what's going on in those countries, and our politicians have pretty much been able to get away with it with impunity, without much accountability, especially in the media. A lot of mainstream media outlets, if they rarely do talk about it, they don't talk about it in the context of our own involvement. They act like we're detached from it. It's going on over there. We have nothing to do with it, when that's far from the truth.
Right.
Obama, in the Department of Homeland Security and early 2016, they did issue bans on Iranians getting visas. There was a BBC journalist in February 2016. She was trying to fly from Britain to the U.S. For her cousin's birthday, and her child were banned from traveling here because of that. And obviously, Trump's Muslim ban took it to the next level without warning. Even Republicans wanted him to at least give a grace period so people could know, don't fly, and know what to expect. And it created chaos. And there's been a couple of theories out there that chaos was deliberate, because also on this weekend he reshuffled his National Security Council. He basically booted off the director of national intelligence and one other top official, and replaced them with Steve Bannon, the former Breitbart editor and white supremacist,
Right.
and basically granted the authority for that council to General Michael Flynn. So he gets to decide when those other 2 individuals get to sit on meetings and not. And that's really concerning, because you have these 2 individuals who, they're what's their criticism towards these two, and what they want out of national security. Michael Flynn wants to go to war with Iran. There's been some articles recently about that, and Bannon, it's unclear exactly what his motives are, but based on his record and what he believes, it's not going to be anything good. So those two, the Bush administration was terrible because Dick Cheney was really dictating, and Donald Rumsfeld were really dictating the our foreign policy
Right.
and national security issues. Now, for Trump administration, two equitable, if not worse, individuals are running the show.
Right. So let me just scan through some of the article here, and while I'm actually displaying your article up on our show. So what Bannon is doing, most dramatically with last night's ban on immigration, is creating what is known as a shock event. Such an event is unexpected, confusing, and throws society into chaos, theorized political history professor, Boston College, Heather Cox Richardson. So I saw this float around in my own feed, and you've mentioned it. It appeared also in a Medium article, I believe. But you're going even deeper into the shuffling at the top that Donald Trump has done with his administration already. You mentioned one. I'm sorry, Mike. Was it National Security Advisor or Defense Secretary that he replaced?
But he replaced the Director of National Intelligence and
DNI. Okay.
Yes.
So DNI, and also understand that his interim Attorney General stepped down. Do you know what that was about?
Sally Yates. I think she was leaving in a week anyways, or whenever either Sessions or whoever, if he doesn't get nominated, whoever gets appointed Attorney General. So she was temporary, but she was she didn't want to implement and do anything she didn't want anything to do with the Muslim travel ban, and she's being commended for that.
Okay.
But she was a leftover from the Obama administration in this transition, and Trump's administration is an anomaly in that a lot of Obama officials are still in position. Normally, if you look at past administrations, whether it's Obama, Bush, or even before that, a lot of the cabinet members, a lot of the nominations would have been done already. A lot of the transition officials that would have been in place. So this is really considering what all the things that happened last week. Trump's administration still isn't completely in place to where he wants to be. So that's
right.
kind of hopeful in that maybe he is just inept, and that's another thing. These theories that it was deliberate, it's based on that presumption. It was either deliberate or it was just executed very, very poorly, and whether or not they anticipated the sort of fallout about it that they got, we don't know. But
gotcha. So yeah, a lot of missing pieces. A little bit unusual for administration not to be, have its roster filled out on day one. And yeah, we have an Obama appointee sort of holding. Is there a reason why Sessions? I mean, he's being held up in Senate. Do you expect that Sessions will go through a tough time?
I've seen that a few Republicans have defected, but unfortunately, with all these nominations, to put it into perspective, between the Carter administration and Obama administration, only 6 cabinet nominees have not been appointed. So usually that's what happens. And the way the Senate's structured right now, Republicans, they just need 50 votes. So as long as the Republicans all vote in favor of these nominees, there's nothing the Democrats could really do except use their fully allotted time to question these nominees, to cast doubt on them, and to use that to use it as a platform to kind of structure their opposition towards Trump and his administration, which they haven't done at all. That's why you've seen, there was a protest outside of Chuck Schumer's apartment yesterday in New York City. A lot of people, even Clinton supporters and Bernie supporters, are angry with the Democrats for. Most of them are voting in line for Trump nominees. They're not even, giving that opposition. Sessions is one of those exemptions. He's gotten a lot of heat from Democrats, and it's warranted. He has a strong racist background. Even recently, he helped develop that. Trump's administration's policy towards Syrian refugees, and it's really, I wrote an article a few weeks ago for Counterpunch. What is problematic with a lot of the things he said, and
Right.
uh,
So, but I also saw in the news today that Betsy DeVos is actually, she has two Republicans who are defecting from the party who will not nominate her. So, is that a serious threat, or is it just kind of
I think they
grandstanding?
need 6 Republicans to defect,
Six. Okay.
and that's 5, I believe, because I believe we have 46. If we
Right.
have Bernie as an independent, and there's another independent, I think his name's Angus King in
Mm-hmm.
Maine, but he
Angus King.
normally sides with the Democrats.
Right.
So they need a few more Republicans to defect, and that's hopeful if no Democrats vote in favor of DeVos. One of the criticisms toward Cory Booker, and it's been commonly cited, is he was on a board with Betsy DeVos, a charter school board. He holds a lot of the same education policy beliefs as DeVos does, and that's problematic.
Okay.
I doubt he'll go on a limb to vote in favor of her, especially how much they're publicizing opposing DeVos, but you never know.
Right.
We've had Schumer, who's been voting in favor of every single Trump nominee. That the website 538 did a statistical analysis of what senators are voting in favor of Trump nominees the most, and Senator Dianne Feinstein was the top of that list, and she's a Democrat.
Right.
Tim Kaine has been voting in
Tim
favor
Kaine.
of all
Okay.
of Trump's nominees. I personally am not shocked by any of this. These are the kind of people that they are. They're
Corporate Democrats, corporate Republicans voting for corporate appointees, right? So,
and establishment corporate appointees, and they market themselves and sell themselves as polarized. But when push comes to shove, when it comes to enacting action or placing any challenges towards the establishment, they'll fall in line, and that's what people are seeing. So the silver lining in all of this is, I think a lot of people are getting that moral clarity that it's not just one team against the other team. It's against it's voters, progressives and Democrats against corruption, and it's not
Right.
just within the Republican Party. It's within the Democratic Party as well.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's a point that's really hard for liberal Democrats or self-identified liberals to understand. While they're right in that the legislators, the lawmakers should be, standing up for moral values in not appointing these people, not voting for them. They do, and they get a pass by voters, by party loyalists. So unfortunate. So hopefully your writing and the works of others, wake people up and get people to see, how many works in Washington, in Capitol Hill, and what really counts when it comes to voting. So it's not the people's will. It's who butters my bread. Um, so you had another very interesting article this week in Observer. Hunters and I'll just pull it up here. Hunters and conservationists rally against Republican proposal to sell federal lands. Republicans recently introduced a bill to dispose of 3.3 million acres of federally protected land. And we have a picture of Representative Jason Chaffetz here. You want to go into that and tell us the details?
Well, Chaffetz proposed that bill and an accompanying bill. This all started in early January. One of the first bills passed by Republicans was one that deemed all federal land worthless, basically. So what that does is it
sorry, worthless meaning having zero financial value,
if they choose to sell federal land, they don't have to discuss or debate that sale based on a financial. They don't have to give it financial justifications, because normally there's the public trust doctrine that if they sell federal land, it needs to be within the public interest. So basically, they can just argue that it's disposable, or they need to get rid of it, and they don't even need to make a profit off of it. They just get rid of it. They sell it to commercial interest or private landowners, and then hunters are opposing this because it's happened to them before in these instances where they've had forest or places where they hunt closed off by these sales, and then forever their access to that whole area is closed off. So whether private landowners use it for their own hunting purposes or oil, any sort of purposes along that route. And what Chavez is doing, he is citing 3.3 million acres that was originally surveyed during the Clinton administration as disposable, but what he's kind of acknowledging that, but leaving out important details. In that survey, they admitted that a lot of those areas designated, they have endangered species on them. They have, some of them are culturally significant. Wetlands conservation they have conservation significance. So it really wasn't concise, and the purpose of that is they were trying to figure out a way where they could raise money for Everglades restoration.
Okay.
What Chavez wants to do is basically just to get rid of all this land, which is in his home state of Utah and 9 other states. That's currently managed by the Bureau of Land Management and the U.S. Forest Service, and sell that off. And once you sell that land off, it's the size of Connecticut. It's more than likely than not never going to fall back into federal protection. So it's likely to be developed. The government has no control over what happens to it after that. So we're losing that land that's being conserved right now. And that's problematic for a variety of reasons, not just for hunters and tourists and the public to use, but for a conservation purpose. We should be protecting as much land as possible. There's a Harvard biologist, E.O. Wilson, who has a proposal. He published a book last year that has it's called Half Earth, and his idea is half of the Earth's land needs to be set aside for conservation purposes to help offset climate change, global warming, and the degrading factors that development and the increasing global population has on the Earth.
Right. I would just like to point out that it's somewhat absurd that these wondrous areas of our country have no intrinsic value, and even no financial value. Um, that's somewhat shocking. You know, even the most corporatist Democrats will mouth the words that we need to start. We don't need it, but we need to start talking about a carbon tax. We need to start putting a price on what it means to maintain the environment. Um, but going even worse than that, and the Democrats, again, I say they mouth the words; they don't actually introduce legislation to protect the environment from corporate raiders. But here we have like a massive Republican GOP giveaway. Um, so, yeah, shocking. Um, I was just going down the article, and you had a quote from actually some of the people who live close to these lands. Last I checked, hunters and fishermen were taxpayers, said Jason Amaro, who represents the Southwest chapter of the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. So that word disposal is scary. It is not disposable for an outdoorsman. So, yeah, that's very interesting that you got the perspective of people who genuinely love and enjoy the outdoors, these lands. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. So yes, any other stories that you're working on? I actually kind of liked the story he did a few days ago with I don't know. Would you like to bring it up? I do have it. Hillary Clinton and Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
That went up today, and it's really a discussion about this media trend, and I'm sure if for as a Bernie Sanders supporter, it's kind of annoying to see publications like The Hill and Politico write articles featuring Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and it's her saying something about attacking Trump. In it, they don't mention that she was the former DNC chair and she rigged the primaries. Nothing of that nature. It's strictly a puff piece to elevate Debbie Wasserman Schultz as a spokesperson for the Democratic Party. And it's hypocritical for her to say a lot of these things to Trump. We don't want to hear from Debbie Wasserman Schultz, but the establishment does, and she helped Clinton, so the Democratic Party, they helped her get reelected. Obama, Biden, they made endorsements.
Right.
Never do that in a primary. Nancy Pelosi was down there campaigning on her behalf. So Clinton always pays
pays her
their
debts.
So that's what Debbie Wasserman Schultz is getting in return. And Hillary Clinton's getting the same sort of treatment. Every tweet, no matter how much lacking in substance it is, it's getting elevated. It's getting articles written about it. Like it's this great thing. Like Hillary's making this hallmark achievement and speaking out on this. When it's really the same old politically expedient Hillary Clinton that we've seen. She tweeted about the Women's March. She didn't show up or really have anything to do with it besides people there appropriating it to vocalize their support for Hillary and their how upset they were with Russia and Trump. But and she did it with the Muslim travel ban again. Bernie commented on that, and he wasn't, no news articles were really written about him and, his
principal
stance on the issue. Yeah. And then Clinton's, they bring up the cons again. So,
okay.
they're parading the same political tools they used and the same tactics they used during the presidential campaign. To kind of reboost her image. And you've seen all these rumors. What's Hillary going to do next? Is she going to run for mayor? Is she going to have her own TV show? And no Clinton people have come out and say, oh, no, that's not going to happen. They let these rumors circulate because they serve the purpose of elevating Hillary Clinton and rebuilding her status as a celebrity. So no matter what she wants to do next, whether it's in politics or not, it'll rebuild her image. So if she announced today that she is writing a book due out in September with the same publisher that Milo, that Breitbart editor that is out of his mind.
Really? Wow.
Yes. So people were boycotting that publisher, and they were.
That's crazy.
Just this month, this was recent. They were boycotting him. They were outraged that this publisher was publishing a book from this guy, and now Hillary Clinton is using the same publisher shamelessly.
Wow. So that's a very clear example. Corporations make the world go around, as long as money goes. So we're talking about Milo Yiannopoulos, or from England. He's very controversial, so much so that he got banned from Twitter. He was seen as a lead figure of the alt-right. Okay. So that's Hillary Clinton for you. So maybe I'll just take a moment here to go through the comments on YouTube and Facebook, and everyone out there listening. Thanks for all these likes. It's nice. Catch the link also on YouTube. It'll be a little easier to find for you guys if you want to catch this later. So starting from the bottom, sad that he's preaching to the choir. Those that are not awake never put two and two together. If you ask them why are there refugees, they don't know the answer. Okay.
That brings up another point I wanted to make. I don't know if you caught that Nancy Pelosi did a CNN town hall last night.
I didn't. Yeah.
Well, you didn't TiVo that, or
Yeah, I mean that's best thing all night, right?
It sounds as cringeworthy as the clips were, but in one of the questions, a refugee from Yemen asked her, basically said that her mother was affected by Trump's Muslim travel ban, and everything that's been going on over there. She asked how can her and the Democratic Party, how do they intend to help her? And Pelosi went straight to this is all Trump's fault. Trump hasn't been in the presidential office for more than 2 weeks. And Pelosi is inferring that the crisis in Yemen is somehow the Republicans' fault, when it was Obama and his State Department that have been signing off on record numbers of weapons exports to Saudi Arabia, including the controversial cluster bombs to kill civilians over there.
Right. Are these the same as the iron fragmentation bombs, or is that another name for it, or?
I believe so. Even a few years ago, the U.S. had to spend over $1 million to clean up cluster bombs in Laos that were left over from the Vietnam War. So, a lot of these they go off, they are dropped, they don't go off, and they'll just be sitting in places, and kids playing with the soccer ball kicks it, or moves the dirt around it the wrong way, and it explodes. In those cases. There was an Intercept article. An 8-year-old girl was killed.
Yes, I saw that.
Special operations. Special ops in Yemen, and under the Obama administration, her 16-year-old brother was killed. So.
So it was actually one and the same. So I saw a few articles actually, and 8-year-old girl killed in Yemen by U.S. bombs, and so. And then I saw sister of American citizen that Obama was killed. So the 8-year, I'm putting one and one together. So that's very sad.
It's good that maybe people start talking about Yemen and what's happening, but they're pretending to care because Trump's president now, and that's problematic, and it's sad because people were silent for 8 years while this was going on, and the U.S. was an active participant in the civil war in Yemen that was really provoked by Saudi Arabia's intervention, and they've cut off food delivery to the country, so you have starving children there. Just if you have any time, just look up and spend some time on researching what's going on in Yemen. PBS Frontline did a good documentary on what's going on there. I think a year ago.
Right. Yeah, I think one of the groups that I subscribe to is Stop the War in Yemen on Facebook. I'm not sure if I should bring it up, but I could try. But while I'm looking that up, I will going back to Nancy Pelosi.
Well, another bad response she had is there's a college student, a millennial, who said, I was supposed to ask you a softball question. He apologized to Jake Tapper and said, I'm asking you, what can the Democratic Party do to answer to the far right and their economic message, given that young people are so interested in Bernie Sanders' economic populist message. And she basically laughed off the question and said, sorry, we're a capitalist society. And she gave a brief kind of awful history about corporations used to be nice, and then 20 years ago they stopped being nice, and she had like this neoliberal worldview that it was just people's attitudes needs to change. That was her excuse for the income and wealth inequality, because she's part of that. She's one of the wealthiest members of Congress. Her net worth is estimated to be over $100 million, and she's been one of the resisting Democratic Party leaders to any sort of accountability, any sort of responsibility. In early December, she said in an interview, I don't think people want a new direction for the Democratic Party. And if you saw the primaries, if you saw all the young voters who were supporting Bernie Sanders, that's not the case at all. And I think the Democrats' losses have attested to that. That they do need a new direction, quickly, or they're going to keep losing. So
right, yeah, Nancy Pelosi's kind of an interesting character in that she's a West Coast liberal Democrat. So I did actually study her campaign funding, and unlike most of the corporatist Democrats on the East Coast, in New York and others, D.C., she doesn't have too many very
She doesn't
large...
need to finance her own campaign, really. Her congressional district, it's in
large donors, right?
Yeah.
Tons of large individual donors, right?
Yeah, her main opponent in this last election was an independent. His name is Preston Pikus. He's progressive. He got about 19% of the vote. And she really doesn't have to worry about re-election. So what she does is she courts elites and fundraises for other candidates. Right. Another California Democrat, on Tuesday, the Los Angeles Times met with Adam Schiff, who was one of the leading conspirators of the Russian election interference allegations. And he said an even worse quote. He warned about progressives and this resentment towards Donald Trump producing a radical Tea Party of the left. And those were his exact words: Tea Party of the left. He was basically, saying that this was dangerous, that progressives were going to turn into this, and it kind of just exemplifies and highlights how out of touch these people are in the Democratic Party, and how tone deaf they are to what really needs to be done and what voters actually want out of their elected officials.
Wow. So Yeah, we could talk all night about the corporate Democrats and um, try to keep. I try to expose the insidious nature of money in
And it's
politics
every
and
week. It's every week they
right.
say something
Just
more stupid. Even today, just talking about it, new things pop up in my head today. Joe Biden formally endorsed Tom Perez, the um, main opponent opposing Keith Ellison for
really,
the Democratic National Committee chair.
Tom Perez. Wow.
Yes. So
Okay.
pro TPP, Tom Perez, who gave um, Renaissance Technologies, which is a big Clinton. It's owned by one of Clinton's biggest donors, James Simon, and the president of it is one of the Mercers, Trump's biggest donor, and they basically asked the Department of Labor for a special favor to for this one hedge fund they have, their hedge fund, one fund they had to give it a tax break, and it saved them $6 billion. And there were some Senate committee hearings about it a few years ago, but nothing happened with it. But that's the kind of Secretary of Labor he was. And that's the kind of DNC chair he's going to be. So, in all likelihood, given that the DNC delegates are going to be choosing the DNC chair, I predict that Perez could likely get chosen as the new DNC chair, and I think that'll incite further rage with Sanders supporters, because even though Keith Ellison has been pandering to the establishment because Bernie backs him, our Revolution backs him so strongly,
right.
that they're really hoping that at least that we have to deal with Schumer as the Senate Minority Leader and Nancy Pelosi as the House Minority Leader. So at the very least, give Bernie people someone to
Throw them a bone,
look
right?
up to. Yeah, but it might not happen. So we'll see. The
That would
vote
be
is later this
shocking.
month.
That would be shocking.
It would be shocking because if you're supporting Bernie, we haven't had a win since
Since
the
never.
primaries when we were
Yeah.
winning some states, and then those were small wins, obviously. But
Right.
we haven't had anything to look forward to or be excited about. So.
That's insane. Wow. First, I'm hearing that Tom Perez could outmaneuver Keith Ellison for DNC chair, Vice President Joe Biden, throwing his weight behind him. So, yeah, the Democrats, like you say, every week it seems like they're proving um, to be complete losers. They they can't. They're tone deaf. They make the wrong moves, and they cannot seem to not even coast along with their broken platform, broken souls, but they keep descending into what's going to be the destruction of the Democratic Party, the world's oldest extant political party in the world. So maybe it's time for their end. Um, so if we've heard of breaking news on DAPL, and I think you pointed out a link um, before we got on the air here. Can you give us some context as to what's going on right now at Standing Rock?
Well, everything's happening so fast, and with all of this, you kind of get conflicting accounts. Jordan over at the Young Turks is a good source because I believe he's actually there right now. Probably one of the only media outlets there. I've covered it a lot. I was there in early November. It looks like what's happening now is arrests are being made. Police, if they're not raiding the camp, they're at least trying to move it. So these past couple of weeks, you've really seen an escalation in what's been going on there. You've seen actions on behalf of water protectors and police, revamping their military presence there. So I think what we're going to be seeing is another showdown. good news today in Seattle. The council passed a resolution that they will be divesting from Wells Fargo, and I believe to the tune of $3 billion because of Wells Fargo's involvement in investing in the Dakota Access Pipeline. So that's big news, and that's what we need to be doing to actually oppose and stop this pipeline because the fight's not over. The Army Corps of Engineers said there's nothing definite yet.
Right.
But everyone knows that Trump wants to see this pipeline through along the same route. The company wants that. And a lot of people on both sides of the aisle, their donors are heavily invested in this pipeline. Warren Buffett's holding company, Berkshire Hathaway, owns 25% of it. Rick Perry, who was nominated for to chair be the Secretary of Energy. He was a board member of the Energy Transfer Partners. Both sides of the aisles, and that's really why you didn't see any Democrats at all speaking up in support of Standing Rock.
Right.
Bernie was the only one. Tulsi went there. Even Elizabeth Warren, who has claimed to be of Cherokee heritage, he was silent on the issue up until Obama and the Army Corps of Engineers actually did something.
Right.
And basically, what they did is they just put a pause on it, and passed the problem off to Trump's administration. Where
Right.
here we are, where the Dakota Access Pipeline, it's still being constructed, and in all likelihood, they're going to try their best to at least to go along the same route. So it remains to be seen if the protest can escalate again and get enough media attention again, where Trump would be forced to at least stick with the new environmental impact assessment study and change the route of the pipeline. So
Right. And the assessment being different from an actual study. An assessment being a period of like 3 to 6 months, whereas a real environmental study, I understand, takes years, right? So even Obama, you know, whether you give him credit or not for not issuing, the final permit, the final nail in the coffin, or the final domino to roll over. This guy, Obama himself, was basically allowing it to be fast tracked. An environmental assessment is not a study. So, as told to me by Chase Iron Eyes. Um, so, so we're hearing conflicting reports on people who may or may not be injured. Definitely,
I did hear something that
you did.
Chase was arrested.
Chase was
So
arrested. Oh my goodness. Okay.
yes.
Yeah. So, well, we're going to be having his speech coming up in the next day or two from Washington D.C. Actually, the day after the inauguration.
What I hope is we can take the veracity of these protests against Trump, from starting with the Women's March and the Muslim travel ban,
Mm-hmm.
and even the one last night against Schumer, and hopefully people can wake up and apply those same protests and get back involved in the fight to stop the Dakota Access Pipeline. So
Right.
that's what I'm hoping to see, is people to get even more excited, to get those Clinton supporters who really didn't care at the time, even if they do care now because Trump is the one running the show, to get as many people involved to try, and hopefully what this does is, if the people who blindly supported Hillary Clinton, they kind of wake up to see, oh, the Democratic Party does need changing. They're really not doing anything. So those people who are really stubborn in resisting Bernie Sanders, the same people who are saying, oh, Bernie isn't a real Democrat, maybe they'll start to get clarity. Most, a lot of them won't, because they will. They're still stuck in that tribalism mentality where vote blue no matter who, and it's Democrats versus Republicans, when it's really I think most progressives see it as the working class, middle class against corruption.
Right.
So,
Yep.
and I hope more people join that fight.
I do too. I think DAPL, is a best chance at unifying with the Women's March crowd. Um, we even have you know the more esteemed among us, like Chris Hedges, who sees himself strictly as a writer, as a journalist, not quite an activist, although he's done some important work on the legal front, such as suing Obama for the NDA Act of 2013. He was at the Women's March. I was very surprised to see him out there amongst all the pink pussy hats, and I mean, if I saw him again, I would say, Chris didn't look quite comfortable out there, but he was trying to make a statement to us, actually, the more progressive amongst us, that hey, this is where it starts. And Chris always takes his cues from history, and mentioned that this is how it started in Germany when they started to bring down communism in East Germany. So yeah, I think I'm sure you're going to be paying very close attention to DAPL, and you have your contacts there. So please keep in touch with us and let us know what's going on. Anything we should be looking out for from the administration or current breaking news at the moment?
Besides the code access pipeline, I mean, I'm probably gonna write something up tonight or tomorrow morning, based on what I can gather about what's going on there. I touched upon the comments that Pelosi and Congressman Schiff said that were really denigrating towards Bernie Sanders supporters. So we got something coming out on that, and basically it's you really don't know what to expect on a day basis from the Trump administration. There's going to be more news about his nominees and their hearings, and a lot of these people, even some of the Republicans who have criticized some of these nominees, they're voting in favor of them anyway. So Rex Tillerson. You had Marco Rubio, John McCain, and Lindsey Graham attack him for his ties with Russia, and they're voting for him anyway. So I think in the media they really do this. You see Evan McMullin, who is a Republican, former CIA guy, but because he's anti-Trump, he gets a platform, and it's opportunistic. Glenn Beck the same way. He's was partnering with Samantha Bee. I don't think these people should be seen as allies. Even today, I think Glenn Beck tweeted that he was excited about the Supreme Court nominee Gorsuch. You can't. I don't think the media should be relying on these people, or giving them the opportunity to elevate their own platforms and their own voices just because they're saying something bad about Trump. That's not where the resistance is going to come from, but that's unfortunate. They would rather hear from those people who will, when it comes to making any action against Trump, will fall in line than activists and attorneys and actual people that will actually do some sort of resistance, that will actually do some good while we are dealing with the Trump administration and a Republican dominated Congress.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, we look to journalists like yourselves to expose these darker truths and the fallacy of liberal Democrats, and just to what end, no end, the depths that the Republicans will go to. So yeah, it's kind of a shock event kind of of time for the country. We appreciate your work. And so, closing out, how do people, who watch the show, who are thirsting for better sources of news, how can they not only just find it, yourself on Counterpunch and Observer and other outlets, but how can they support better media?
By sharing it, viewing it, telling people about it. Basically, I think Bernie Sanders' campaign it really exposed what is good media and what's really biased, what wasn't covering his campaign. And I think people became media literate by strongly following that. Basically now it's the same case. You have to really do it. You have to do your research. Find the journalists that you do like. There are a lot of good outlets out there too, but because of the profit motive and because six corporations own all our media. Even good outlets are going to produce some like bad journalism at times. So you really have to just kind of vet your sources. There was an article in the New York Times that Glenn Greenwald was talking about a couple of weeks ago, where a lot of these stories about Trump, people will jump the gun and think it's the new scandal when it turns out that it's fake. Last week you had a claim that Donald Trump had his hands photoshopped to be bigger in a White House photo, and that went viral on Twitter before some media outlets were like, no, this is fake, this is not what happened. So fake news based on confirmation bias, it's not, it was used as an scapegoat, as an excuse for why Clinton lost the election, but mainstream media isn't immune to it, and neither it's not a left or right issue. It's just people have to really be skeptical about anything that you see.
Right. Yeah. Yes. I mean, there's a tendency, even amongst progressives, to just instantly, buy the headlines as they flow through the feeds and social media and Twitter and so forth. Yeah. So I think this year, because of all the coverage, it's good. I almost believe that the whole fake news and Russian conspiracy, I don't think, to me, I don't think it went over with the public that well. I don't think they fooled a great number of people.
Well, there wasn't really any substantive evidence they released. They still haven't released it. When Obama said,
Right.
before I leave the presidency, there'll be a thorough review and we'll release as much as we can to the public. He didn't release anything to the public. What really have we seen? Just unsubstantiated claims and a DNI report that really was just a college essay about why RT is bad. It's been.
Okay.
And they're not even talking about it anymore because, more likely than not, they didn't have evidence to back up their claims, or it was really just a political tactic to kind of escape any sort of accountability or responsibility for Hillary losing, and to use this in an attack against Trump. And it still is to some degree by like the most loyal Clinton supporters. We'll see Joy Reid, who was, out of her mind on MSNBC, often claim that something's tied to Putin or Russia when it's not, or something that doesn't even apply. I think she was made fun of a few days ago because she criticized Trump for not including Jewish people in their Holocaust Remembrance statement, but then she applied it said that this is what the Russians do or something, and then people were retorting back that Russia really played a major role in stopping the Holocaust in World War II. And there was like an article where Putin was like, said something about the Jews and the Holocaust or whatever. So it's an alarmist button that Clinton partisans still push, but I think when the news was hot, and they were just pushing it as much as they could,
Right.
and that's really what it was. And people don't. Russia is a nuclear power; they're one of the largest countries in the world. People don't want to, worse intentions based on something that you really don't have evidence for.
Right. Right.
So.
Yeah, I actually did my own. You might be proud of me to know. I did my own investigation. I have some computer science experience, some system administration experience, and I actually did a live stream. It's up on YouTube, and I'll forward it to you at some point, Mike. But what I found was the servers that were used to spearfish John Podesta. Back in October, they were still running, and as you know, the attack was in, I think, mid-March or late March. That's when the Bitly links show that he clicked on it twice. To my shock, the servers were still running. So I did some snooping around. I found, some open ports. I found an alias, and I found that the base URL, basically the homepage of the entire server that was used to hack him, had John Podesta's Wikipedia page on the front. It's something nobody covered for some reason, and
well, there was an article in Counterpunch. You had former NSA technical director, not just like a random person, Bill Binney, who helped develop Thin Thread, which was used what Snowden exposed for mass surveillance. Mm-hmm. And he's done interviews on like Bill Maher and PBS Frontline, stuff like that. He wrote an article with 27-year veteran of the CIA, yep. Ray McGovern. And they said, based on what, how their CIA and DNI is talking about it, we think it's a leak and not a hack.
Right.
They have a Counterpunch article on it. They were published in the Baltimore Sun. I believe last week.
The DNC or Podesta?
Both.
Both. Okay.
They're both are saying that based on how. Because they're saying that because of the NSA's technology, their mass surveillance and the tools they have at their disposal, they would be able to pinpoint exactly, how, where the hack came from and how WikiLeaks got the documents that they did. They'd be able to trace all that, and they're saying because they don't have that, that it was more than likely than not a leak. And not a hack.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. I would say, based on my professional experience, that we have a lot of information from the emails from John Podesta. I mean, they contain all the raw source headers, so it's not like it's either someone logged into his account and re-downloaded all of his messages, or it was kind of a smash and grab kind of thing at his computer. So personally, I would think it would be easier just to get his password and re-download it, but and I would say there could be reasons why the intelligence community doesn't want to reveal. Maybe they do have that. Maybe the NSA does have all the traces, and they just don't want to admit it. So, for various reasons, but but I do believe and concur that the DNC leaks, quote unquote hacks, like definitely a leak. So you have the server company that was supposedly used to infiltrate the DNC, putting up a web page saying, hey, it was our servers and we're Russian, but I can tell you the account holders that you're talking about aren't Russian. And by the way, all the evidence, all the data that we have on our servers, you're welcome to it. American government, Russian government. no one's contacted us. Thank you very much. It wasn't Russians. Have a nice day. So I don't know what else you need more than that. So just glancing over to the comments again. So leaks most sensibly came from an insider. Leaks not hacks.
Well, that's the thing. Everyone has their own theory because, if you are skeptical at all and you know anything about these intelligence agencies, Clapper committed perjury.
He was multiple times, right?
He was also head of the satellite imagery that was supposed to find the WMDs in Iraq. So right. He worked under Rumsfeld. The CIA has had their fingerprints on every U.S. intervention since their inception. These people lie. Even in 2014, Senator Dianne Feinstein, of all people, declared, was in a war basically with the CIA because the CIA hacked congressional servers without consent, and they were lying about it, and they finally admitted that they did that. But under Obama's administration, none of these people were reprimanded at all. And that's what happens. Their trust was, really lost during Obama's administration when that happens, and nothing gets done about it. So why would we trust them now, especially when it's something as serious as that? So.
Right. Yeah, and that gets into a whole discussion about we can't get into it now, but I think Debbie, the same progressive, was talking with Steve last night, and she was touching upon things that she's researching at the moment. She's just coming to grips with the quote-unquote deep state. I've heard a lot of former CIA analysts and other intelligence officials talk to about it. It's a semi-permanent community that doesn't really go away from administration to administration. These are career intelligence officials, and they do have sway, political power in terms of what can happen, what can't happen, and their own agendas. So the deep state. So we're coming up a couple minutes past the hour. This has been great, Mike. First time I'm getting to talk to you, and I look forward to more conversations. Maybe next week we'll be joined by Steve if he's feeling a little better. Sorry, people, he's a little doing too much there, and he'll be back soon. So we look forward to covering your stories next week, Mike. And thanks again for joining us at RP.
It's a pleasure as always. Thank you.
Okay. Good night, everyone.